And in this whole section, we find the reoccurrence of this Exodus story, the Israelites preparing to leave Egypt. God telling Moses to summon the elders and go take out their lambs to slaughter as their paschal sacrifices, and to dip the blood, put it on their doorposts and on the lintels of their gates. And they shall do this, and in doing this, the Mashchit, the destroyer, the angel of death will pass over their homes. And this 10th plague happened. And then our Torah reading continues. That God summoned Moses and Aaron in the middle of the night. It says, "Get up and depart from among my people, you and the Israelites with you." This is what Pharaoh said, just get out of here. Take your flock, your herd. And the Egyptians told the people to go, to leave. For if you don't leave, then this plague will continue. And they gave them silver and gold and clothing. And then we read in Exodus 12, verse 37, V'yisu b'nei Yisrael meRamses Sukkato, that the Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot, ki shesh ma'ot elef raglei gvarim levad mitaf, that there were 600,000 people there, not even counting the children. V'gam erev rav ala itam, and even more so, a mixed multitude of individuals went up out of Egypt with them. This is something that's often glossed over when we talk about the Israelites leaving Egypt, this story of profound hope. And we wonder, how is it possible that there were 600,000 Israelites who were slaves? We know 400 years earlier, it was just Jacob's sons and their families who came. Over 400 years, does that grow into 600,000? Maybe. But we also know it was so large because it wasn't just Israelites who left Egypt on this Exodus. It wasn't just Israelites who left in the middle of the night after the 10th plague. It wasn't just Israelites who came to the sea and wondered where was God. It wasn't just Israelites who crossed that split sea. It wasn't just Israelites who celebrated with timbrel in hands freedom, a sense of normalcy, when they made it to the Midbar, when they made it into the wilderness, when they made it to freedom for the very first time. For the Torah tells us, V'gam erev rav ala itam, that a mixed multitude of individuals were there with them. A mixed multitude of individuals went up with them. Allah itam. Like aliyah, they went up. Yeah, they went up out of Egypt, they went up out of slavery, they went up out of bondage. But because they were not alone, because it was not only Bnei Israel, it was not only Israelites, it was not only Hebrews, because it was everybody together, society, Allah itam, went up with them. I want to suggest that because everyone was together, everyone lifted each other up. Everyone went up because they were not going up alone. Everyone went up because they knew they were in this together. We began our live stream service this morning talking about how we were all at our Seder tables, doing our own things, zooming in or FaceTiming into each other last night. But think about that. That at the exact same time, we were all doing the same ritual. We may have used different Haggadot. We may have done it differently. Some of our households are bigger, some are smaller. Some of our Seders were just those in our home, and some we virtually connected to people across the world. Some of us had a 20-minute Seder, and some of us had a 4-hour Seder. But we were all connected. We were all doing the same thing together. And doing the same thing together, Allah itam, we were all going up with one another. We were all lifting each other up. I felt comfort even if it was just me and my family in my home. I knew that everybody close to me, family, friends, our Bethel community was doing the same thing. Was struggling together. Was searching for normalcy together. Was lifting each other up together. This idea of Erev Rav makes sense when you think about the persecution in Egypt. We wonder, why is it that it took until Moses came along to say, let my people go. Shalach et ami. Why didn't anybody else in Egypt step up, stand out, demand freedom for the Israelites? And I would suggest that this is our story, but we were not the only ones who were persecuted. We were not the only ones who were forced into labor. We were not the only ones who were oppressed. We were not the only vulnerable population who had our rights denied in Egypt. Everybody did. But what ended up happening is everybody was only looking out for themselves. The Israelites were enslaved, and this group were enslaved, and that group were enslaved, including Egyptians themselves who were enslaved and were forced laborers and had their rights denied, and everybody were only concerned with their own well-being, and as a result, we all were enslaved for 400 years. It was only once this Erev Rav, Allah Itam, this mixed multitude, all of society coming together to rise each other up, to lift each other up. It was only once we realized that we were all in this together. As Rabbi Naomi Levy said in the prayer I read earlier, it was only once God helped us realize that we are one world and one people were we able to rise up. Did we realize we were all in this together? Her words of prayer said, help us, God, to see that we are one world, one people, who will rise above this pandemic together. I think about this Exodus experience, knowing that it was not just the Israelites leaving, but it was all of us in society connected, searching for hope, going from a vulnerable state to a free state together. Erev Rav, Allah Itam, all of society going up together, lifting each other up together. And all of us, at times, are feeling hopeless and helpless. But all of us, if we understand that we're connected, then we'll raise each other up. We will rise above this together. Our Mefarshim, our commentators, ask, why is it that this mixed multitude of individuals is referred to as an Erev Rav? And it takes the root, Erev, Ayin Resh Bet, and connects it to the same roots of the word for plague. Right? If we look at Exodus chapter 8, you can follow along. We'll go back briefly. That Exodus 8:17, we find a familiar plague. Right? God says that do not let my people go, I will let loose swarm of insects against you and your homes. And refers to this thing as Et ha-arov. Het-arov. So what is the connection between Erev Rav, this mixed multitude, and Arov, this word for plague? Now they would be quick to suggest, because our commentators were pretty xenophobic towards other people outside of the Jewish community, partially because the Jewish community at their time was so isolated because they were so persecuted. They would suggest that interacting with people of other faiths and ethnicities, that they are the plague. I think they're dead wrong. I would suggest when we experience an Arov, when we experience a plague, as we're experiencing right now, we can only get out of it if we see ourselves as an Erev Rav, as a mixed multitude, Allah Itam, that lifts each other up, that goes up together. Because if we experience a plague and we try to go about it alone, if we only look out for ourselves, don't care for the well-being of others, then we'll never cross that split sea. But when we're all experiencing the same pain and heartache and fear and grief and anxiety, when we're all experiencing the same Arov, then we see ourselves as an Erev Rav. We understand that we are a mixed multitude. We understand that as society, we stand together, one world and one people. Maybe that's the problem with the way this country has responded to this pandemic. That New York and New Jersey are taking precautions that are different than Texas, or different than Florida, or different than Montana. And then even if we flatten the curve in one place in our community, there's a new epicenter where this pandemic breaks out further. We can't only look for ourselves, look out for ourselves. We need to remember that when we go out, when we cross that split sea, when we begin anew, a fresh start, a fresh beginning, when we go to cherutz, to freedom from this experience, we do so not alone, but we do so with an Erev Rav, Allah Itam, with society together, holding each other up and lifting each other up. This reminds me of a Talmudic story. We find it initially, we find it also in Midrash, in Vayikra Rabbah, Leviticus Rabbah 4:6. It's a story where Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai talks about individuals who are on a sefina, who are on a ship together. And one of them, it's a well-known parable, one of them takes a drill and starts drilling underneath him. And the other says, "Hey, we're all sitting here, what are you doing?" And that one who was drilling underneath him replies and says, "What do you care? Is it not underneath my own seat that I am drilling?" And they responded to that man, "But the water will rise and flood us all on this ship." If we only care for ourselves, selfishly, we think that the water that is coming into our own ships will not flood everybody else. But we understand that as we all experience this feeling of treading water right now, if we're lucky, in some cases feeling like we're drowning. We need to work together to plug the hole, to balance the ship, to steer the ship, to go back on a charted course that we're familiar with, that we're comfortable with, that we know to be true. And we do that, Erev Rav Alai Tam, knowing that a mixed multitude, all of us together, go up with each other, hold each other, raise each other up. Even if it's to see each other's faces on the screen, even if right now it's only virtually, we know that it's our connectivity that holds us all right now.